Hello, welcome to Talk the Walk, episode 31. Today is November 13th, 2014.
Wow.
And somehow or another we missed an episode.
Yes, we did.
We were on such a winning streak.
I know
man.
we were. We were going strong there for a little while.
Back to back, and then I screwed it up, had to go to some boring thing in Charlotte. It was boring.
Well, we're back together though. That's all that's important.
That's all that matters, man. So, we missed the Beth episode, Slab Town, and then the regular scheduled episode that we should be doing today is for self-help. Yeah, so we'll try to cram both of those in this one episode.
Sure.
Because a lot of important stuff happened in Slab Town, and
a lot of crazy stuff.
a big bomb,
a big reveal
dropped in self-help.
Right.
Before that, we have a few interesting news dockets. But what have you done for the last 2 weeks? Anything? No frisbee golf?
I played a little bit, not a whole lot. No, I mean, dude, I've been reading I just finished a book. I just started another book, so that's what I've been doing.
Damn.
You'd like the last one I read. It's a Stephen King book, Duma Key, but it's about an artist and a guy that draws these really crazy abstract paintings.
Yeah.
At this place in Florida called Duma Key. After he loses his arm in an accident.
What?
And it's crazy, dude. Like these pictures are come alive kind of thing.
Oh, weird.
And he uses, how they always say amputees can feel they're missing limbs. It's like he paints with his missing limb kind of thing.
What?
And it's really creepy and evil. And it turns out there's this evil spirit that lives on this island.
Oh my God.
He's channeling and all this stuff. It's really good, really good. You'd like it.
I think I need to check that out for real because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but one of my biggest fears is that I'll lose my right hand or
right.
For real. I've thought about how. If something were to happen, if I were just in a terrible car accident and then I would wake up, my first reaction would be oh my God, I'm so glad I'm alive, you know? And then whenever I noticed that my arm was gone, that would be the worst feeling.
Right.
And I know that real world people deal with that. So I'm not belittling it, but
right.
I think that would be the worst thing for me. I couldn't, and this sounds ridiculous, but I would be upset that I couldn't play video games. And that I couldn't paint anymore. Not on an equal scale. I'd be more upset that I couldn't paint, but I would also still be upset that I couldn't play video games. Or I guess you can, but I'd have to use some kind of special tools.
Right.
Same thing with painting. I watched a documentary one time on a guy that was born with no hands, and he would draw using with his wrists. And he drew really big stuff. It wasn't it was really cool. And then there was the girl that had a diving accident and painted with her feet or her mouth. She was paralyzed. Yeah, she was paralyzed from the neck down.
Oh yeah.
She painted with her mouth. It was kind of like whenever you looked at her paintings, it was kind of she might have painted that with her mouth.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But it was still amazing. It was still amazing
great,
that she could do that. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that would be one of the things that I would that.
Well, it's a really cool story. I mean, they compare the way he talks about in the book Stephen King talks about is very much like Salvador Dali, really crazy, surreal stuff. And then there's a whole a string of them. He does a set. It's called the Girl on the Ship paintings, and it's the boat keeps getting closer to the water and eventually turns so you can see who the girl is, and it's crazy.
What?
Oh yeah, you'd like it.
What's it called again?
It's called Duma Key.
Duma Key, and it's a Stephen King.
It's a Stephen King book.
How
Yeah.
old is it?
Say it's mid to late 90s, maybe.
Oh, okay. So that's cool. I really might have to check it out because that's the other dilemma, is that all right. So I've already talked about my fear of losing my right hand.
Right.
If I were on an island where somehow I could all of a sudden use it again, and I knew that it was doing some kind of weird dark magic, because nothing good comes,
right.
It's got to be a trade-off.
There's things where he actually paints something and makes it happen in the real world. It was just it's it gets really creepy, dude.
I don't think I could let go of the ability if I had it back again. At what cost? You know what I mean? Like I don't.
That's the whole thing is like the cost of him doing. Oh, it's really good, dude.
That's pretty crazy.
Anybody that owns a piece of his art, it's like an original, is in danger kind of thing.
Oh shit!
You know.
Wow.
It's good. You should check it out.
Yeah, that sounds really neat. This week, let's see. I saw Interstellar. That's probably the biggest thing that happened in my life the last 2 weeks. And I heard
it was good.
Yeah, it's really good. In my opinion, it exceeds the hype.
Right.
Like in my opinion, it hit all the right buttons with me because I like a certain type of movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't like just any movie. And for me, and I'm emphasizing for me because I could see a faction of people not liking this movie. You know, I wouldn't say it's for everybody, you know. But like if you like things like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
See, I do.
Yeah, see, I think you would love it. Like that was me and Becca were talking about it on the way home, and I was trying to pick out people I should tell to watch it, and it got to you, and I said David would love this movie. Like you would absolutely love it.
I might have to check it out.
And if you like movies like if you like any kind of like Doctor Who or you know, it's very sci-fi, but it's also has a certain whimsiness to it.
Right.
You know, you know what I mean? There's no like techno babble, and I like that.
Right.
It wasn't like one of those movies where they try to like, you know, they made up all this science. You know, the stuff in the is based off of, if you watch like Neil deGrasse Tyson or something like that, you've heard these concepts. You know. They just make a really cool story out of it, you know, and it's really neat. And another thing I like about it that I always liked about like Lost, we mention Lost every episode, is that they don't explain it. It's not like they expect you to be smart enough to understand it, and I like that in a movie. I don't want them to think I'm an idiot. Like,
exactly. I like that too.
Yeah, I don't need a guy petting a cat while he explains the plot to me. You know what I mean? But yeah, I liked it. I thought it lived up to the hype. I thought it was really cool.
I might have to go check it out then.
For sure. But we got some Walking Dead news. Actually, in the news docket, it's kind of strange news, but I was just trying to find some stuff to go over before we went on. One is Walking Dead zombie slayer Emily Kinney kills it as a model, says the New York Post.
I can see it.
Of course, they're in the news. They have Ebola, dogs, Navy SEALs, Polar Vortex, MLB Hot Stove, NYPD, and scandals. So I don't know if they're a very reputable news place, but basically this is a weird article. It kind of goes over just the actress Emily Kinney and the different things she's doing outside of The Walking Dead.
I thought she was more of like a music.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I found the article interesting, and I wanted to bring it up on the show because it goes into, because she's taking some photos for a magazine, and I thought it was funny that like her sister she's almost following in the footsteps of her older sister in the show, even though they're not really sisters in real life.
Right.
Although they are very different photos. So Lauren Cohen's photos, I didn't necessarily think were scandalous per se.
No, not at all.
But they were like what you'd see like an actress doing. And these photos are like a I hate to say like Gwen Stefani, but they're very like, this is a musician, kind of photos.
Right.
But I just thought it was odd that they were kind of doing a similar, they almost had the same agent out there in Atlanta. I don't know. And they have a little bit, I've never listened to this.
It's worked for Lauren.
You want to hear some of her music? I've never listened to this. Let me see. I'll play a little bit. I don't think I can get into it. I can see my younger sister getting into it. So the weird thing is the video, it sounds like I'm making this up. The video is just her crying.
Why wouldn't it be?
It's such a happy song for her just
I know, right? I was over here like smiling, dancing along, and she's crying. Now I feel bad. Sorry, Emily.
Hey, what's that song by the Bloodhound Gang? The lap dance is always better when the stripper's crying. But yeah, I never heard that before. I heard she was a musician. And also we have film tours going on in Atlanta. Yeah. The Walking Dead in Georgia, film tourism comes to life. Which, I did this once before. We went to Atlanta and saw all the spots. But apparently there's, like, professionals now.
Yeah, you
can, like,
get
ride
on, like, a bus. Yeah, I know.
This sounds like Atlanta's turned into Hollywood all of a sudden.
Definitely.
Just thanks to The Walking Dead. This is craziness. I watched a, never mind, I'm not going to tell you that on there. I saw a really funny video of a fight on the Metro.
Oh, yeah.
On the MARTA, sorry.
You told us about that today.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Between two transvestites and two gangster thug wannabes. The transvestites won, David, if you were wondering. They always do.
Well, it's Atlanta.
They always do.
Exactly. They got heels.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is. These heels are made for stomping.
Stilettos.
So yeah, apparently big business is coming to Atlanta. They have figures and things proving that there's more tourism in Atlanta around the sites of The Walking Dead, and more so since the show's been on the air.
Well, why would they tour those places before the show?
Well, some of them is in the city, so it's hard for them to prove. Because
I
was gonna say the opposite is like, how can they prove that Washington Street downtown Atlanta has more tourism now than it did before?
Well, I was just say, didn't y'all go to like an alley?
Yeah, one of them was just like an alley.
I mean, how many people toured that alley beforehand?
It was funny because when we walked down there was like a homeless guy hanging out, and well, I assume he was homeless. He smelt like a homeless guy, and he was like, "What are y'all looking for?" And we were like, "Oh, we're fans of The Walking Dead." And he was like, "Yeah, that's it right there. That's where they filmed that scene." Like everybody in the area knew that's what these two white people were looking at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
They didn't expect us down there unless we were Walking Dead fans. So maybe that's how they do it. They can tell there's more tourism because they count the number of white people that walked down the alley.
Down there.
Yeah.
The homeless guy is keeping account.
He had a little clicker. Oh, God. I don't think we prepared enough for this show, David.
It's going well so far.
We have some more ratings news on The Walking Dead. Apparently, The Walking Dead is huge among what they call young viewers, which you tell me if you think this is a pretty wide range, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the AMC show had 13.5 million viewers on Sunday. Now, this is talking about the most recent episode. So not like a huge, that's like a middle of the season episode, you know? It beat out Madame's Secretary. Don't know what it is. And 8.8 million of those viewers were between the ages of 18 and 49. And apparently that's how
I would say,
49? That's what they call young viewers, 18
well,
and
I'm
49?
just saying I could see that would be most of between that age limit. But, yeah, that's not young viewers.
Yeah. I thought they meant like 16 to 23.
16 to 20, yeah. Like
18 to 49. All right, well. And apparently 8.8 million is in the demographic of 18 to 49, which is that's the most television advertising sales bracket. Like that's the bracket that you want to watch your show,
right?
To advertise to. The next, so that's the number one. The number two, just take a guess. 8.8 million, right? So who do you think is next in line after The Walking Dead? I'm not talking about the show, but how many viewers in that age bracket do you think they have?
On any episode, on any network you're talking about? Arrow.
As far as I know. No. You're not playing the game right, David. How many viewers? Give me a number.
Oh.
Now remember, Walking Dead had 8.8 million.
4.2.
Pretty close. 3.7 million viewers is the number two after The Walking Dead, which was Scandal. ABC Scandal.
Yeah,
oh, dude, I see so many people watching Scandal.
I know, right? I see people talking about it all the time. Take that, Scandal.
Yeah. Scandal can fuck right the fuck off. And then next was How to Get Away with Murder at 3.5 million. So, like, not only is The Walking Dead the number one show for ages 18 to 49,
right?
But it is a landslide victory, apparently. pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy stuff. And then that wraps up our sorry excuse for a news segment this week. And we'll go into
Slab Town.
Slab Town and then self-help. So before we go into all the details on Slab Town, what was your overall view of this episode?
Of Slab Town?
Yeah.
I liked it. I mean, everyone's like filler episode, but they had to tackle what happened with Beth.
I wouldn't say it was filler.
See, I don't either.
Yeah, Beth hasn't been on the show until this episode.
So I liked it. I mean, of course I do prefer the character driven episodes a lot. So
yeah. You know what's funny is after I meant to talk about this when we were talking about the ratings thing actually, so it's good to bring it up now. After the last episode, I got in a conversation with my nephew, and on Facebook, and I thought he watched the show. It came up at some point, and I thought he said he watched the show. So I said, "Hey, what'd you think of the episode?" And he told me he didn't watch it.
Yeah.
And so we got in this whole conversation about like why he didn't watch it, what he didn't, because.
Why don't you watch it?
Yeah.
You need to watch it
because I know that he has an older brother, and I know that his older brother and his dad watch it.
Right.
And so it has to be like a conscious decision not to watch it. It's on in his house every week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm like, why don't you watch it? And he's like, well, I think it's a little slow. I think that this show is just a little misleading in the way that it feels like it should be an exciting show. And, we got to talking about it, and I was like, more people have died on the Walking Dead from the hands of humans as opposed to zombies. It's really more about how humans interact in the apocalypse, not necessarily zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
As a matter of fact, the show that I would most compare it to is a show called Survivors on it was a BBC show.
Yeah.
There's no zombies in that show, but it's very similar though because of this aspect. And the illustration that I showed him was, Breaking Bad is not about selling meth.
No.
It happens very little in the show in comparison to like you would think that it would happen every episode.
Right. Yeah. There's hardly any drug deals going on.
Right. It's all about the characters.
Right.
And that's just the setting. The setting of the show is meth dealing, Whereas like in The Walking Dead, it's like zombies are the setting.
Right.
It's not necessarily the show is about zombies. If anything, it's about humans. And so he made this point, and to somebody that hasn't read the comic or is into the show as us, I understand this point. He says, well, the show is called The Walking Dead. It automatically gives you images of zombies. And it would be like Breaking Bad being called Blue Meth and then, hardly ever being about blue meth.
Yeah, but I think not knowing The Walking Dead is in reference to the people, not the zombies.
Exactly. So that's what I said. I said, he's 16. I said, Cameron, we are The Walking Dead. And he messaged me back, dun, dun, dun. and then I sent him a picture of where Rick says it in the comic, we are The Walking Dead.
Right.
I don't know. I just thought that was hilarious. And then I saw the article about how like young viewers, and he's my only representation of a young viewer.
He falls below the 18.
He does. That's why he doesn't get it.
He's not young enough.
He's too young.
He's too young.
He's not young viewer demographic enough. But anyway.
They don't buy things.
So this is one of those episodes that hardly has a zombie in it. The only zombies are at the end of the episode and
in the
middle
shaft.
Yeah, whenever they're showing them in the elevators and whenever they rings on that little window thing.
Yeah, right.
But Slab Town. So this one actually was written by Frank Darabont and directed by, we're not going to know who he is anyway, so who cares?
Yeah. That guy.
And it opens up with Beth waking up in the hospital, which is very similar to Rick waking up.
Right. The whole from her perspective thing.
Yeah, it was almost like an homage to that, I thought. I mean,
right.
And I think they even said that on The Talking Dead, maybe.
Yeah, I think they did, maybe.
One thing I noticed at the beginning of this episode, just to kind of bring up this minor detail, they showed the clocks again.
They did show the clocks again.
And I didn't notice at what time it was.
Me neither.
I think it said 5:01 or 5:02, but it's somehow supposed to show you at what point in the season it is. At Walker Stalker Con.
See, maybe season 5, episode 2.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So it's at that that time.
Right. They revealed that at Walker StalkerCon that the clocks were significant in that way.
Right.
Which kind of makes sense because they said it. But like if they hadn't have said it, it wouldn't make sense.
You just see clocks.
Because it's not that they show a calendar. Like a calendar would be specific to a time.
To a time and a day and everything, yeah.
It's just like everything this season has happened at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
Just so they can make this work. It doesn't really make sense, you know?
Everyone's like, okay, everyone go now.
It's 5 o'clock.
5.
But one thing that the clocks do signify to me is that it's almost like society, because how important would it be to know what time it is?
I know, right?
In the zombie apocalypse, and yet they keep showing clocks this season, and it's almost like, you know, society's not necessarily rebuilding yet. You know, there's no
clocks is a sign of normalcy too.
Yeah, it's
so
a
they're
sign
trying
that
to show that like
kinda,
that hospital's like kind of normal.
Yeah, exactly. Not only that, but like Rick's carrying a clock now.
Yeah, Rick's got a clock now.
And it's just I don't know if it's like things are. Yeah, it's just things are rebuilding slowly.
Right.
Is kind of the gist I get from it. But
you better watch out if you break a clock.
Yeah, especially. you got to throw salt over your shoulder or something. I don't know those old wives' tales.
But also, I forgot about in this episode, I think it's right at this time when Beth wakes up and she's like looking at her arm. She stands up and pulls the thing out. She looks outside and sees Atlanta like just ruined.
Which is weird that she's back in Atlanta.
Right.
You know, I kind of think it harkens back to the whole Atlanta tourism thing.
Yeah.
I think this is a whole new site now that they can tour.
Oh, definitely.
You can find the hospital.
Well, the hospital is in like...
it's not even in Atlanta, right?
It's either in Griffin, Georgia, or Sonoya.
So it has to be she's looking at a big green screen at that time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a few pictures of the hospital.
It doesn't even look like a high... it doesn't.
No, it doesn't look like it's high at all, so yeah. But yeah, like...
That kind of ruined it for me a little bit.
You kind of... Well, you know, it's weird when they show Atlanta and... When the first episode and you see like where what's his name, Glenn comes out, you know, at the end and they're all running around. It doesn't look like Atlanta's that damaged. Like Rick riding the horse, you don't see. I mean,
yeah.
From what Beth sees, it looks like
it looks way worse. It looks
way worse.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it would be, well, I mean.
Maybe they were
like
more
2
on the
years
outskirts.
have passed
I don't
since
know.
then.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I mean, it could have gotten a lot worse.
But yeah, so you get to see that, but you get to meet 2 new characters.
Yeah.
Dr. Edwards and then Dawn, who is a police officer, which appears to be Atlanta. I guess they were Atlanta police. I didn't
notice what the tag
I think it
said.
did say Atlanta police, and I think they were probably really police.
Well, they definitely were, because at the end of the episode when she goes in that office, you see the picture.
So I just think that
would be weird that they would stage that,
right? Or they just decided, hey, we're going to be cops.
We're fake cops. You might as well get a fake medal,
right?
Let's take a picture.
So yeah, I mean they've apparently just taken over this hospital.
Yeah.
There's a doctor, several cops, and then these orderlies.
I wonder if they were the police officers at the hospital.
At the hospital, I think so. They were probably the ones that were either helping evacuate or, you know, just that were stationed there.
Like
and
Atlanta,
they just happened to barricade themselves in.
Yeah, Atlanta probably has their own like hospital police district. Yeah, because there's one in Greenville. So I would think that if Greenville has one, Atlanta probably does.
But yeah, I mean, they rode out the storm in this hospital, and now they have a very particular way of doing things.
Yeah.
Since there's no money, you can't pay for the doctor visits, so they make you work it off.
Yeah. Which is weird because I almost the Walking Dead, if they do it at all, it's not very overtly. It's never heavy-handed.
Right.
But do you think there's any like political motivation to this episode? It being in a hospital, working off debts, you know,
working off debts.
Yeah. Like I think you would have to really be looking for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't.
But yeah, and again, that's not something that The Walking Dead is famous for.
No,
at all, you know?
No.
I mean, maybe there's a glimmer of that every once in a blue moon, but
right.
yeah, not, you know.
I don't think I wouldn't think there's some overt message too much to it, but, it's something that, and it continues, like, when she's getting, later in the episode when Beth's getting food, the guy, that Gorman, that officer's like,
yeah,
maybe I should write this down.
Everything you're taking.
Everything you're taking, So the more you're there, the more you take, therefore the more you have to pay off. Therefore, you're never going to pay it off.
You're never going to pay it off, yeah.
And so you're always going to be a slave to them. And apparently being an orderly is not the only things that's expected. Sex is...
At least by Officer Gorman.
At least by Officer Gorman. And apparently other things because, they talk about how she let things go.
Yeah.
Dawn had let things go. So obviously there's been rape. And Joan, I think that was obvious that she had been. So, I mean, they help people.
Yeah.
But even then, Beth says, when they're talking about when Beth gets captured originally or saved, as it were.
Yeah.
She's like, I was fighting a walker, then everything went black.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. She had the wound. I think it's pretty obviously they knocked her out.
Yeah.
And took her so that, and in their eyes, they were saving her. But it's not like she had an option.
Right, exactly.
So it's basically slavery.
Yeah, and we find out later on that they only take the weak.
They only take the weak. Yeah.
Because they introduced the character Noah this episode.
Yeah.
So
and he works for Dawn.
Yeah.
He's her property.
Yeah. Before this episode, I think we talked about it on the show. We might have just talked about it, when we were at work or something. But before this episode aired, you had mentioned that they described the characters as property.
As property, yeah.
And knowing that going in really gave me a different light on watching the episode.
Right.
Because, you see how Dawn slaps Beth whenever she's mad at Dr.
Edwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they definitely treat the hospital hands as property, they belong to somebody.
Right.
And they damage that person's property. And what's funny is we mentioned that on the show because we read it, just happened to read it in the character sheet. And people that I've talked to that didn't really like that episode, usually I'll tell them, like, hey, well, there's this aspect to it.
And they don't realize it.
And they didn't realize it, yeah. And I don't know that they did a very good job of describing that,
right.
I think maybe there's a scene where she describes Noah as being hers.
Right.
And
he kind of talks about it, but he never outwardly comes out and says, I'm a slave. He just says, I work for her. I do her stuff. But it's like, it's more I work for her. It's not.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they're indentured servants.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is like it is like that's exactly what it is, because she talks about how Beth can't pay. So Beth is like trying not to eat. She's trying not to use anything.
Right, and she wants to leave. She's like, how much do I have to pay before I can leave?
Exactly. And it's like they never give her a bill.
They never give her a bill,
and they never give her an itemized like. All right, so. You owe us $500, and in order to pay that off, you got to wash clothes 7 times, and then you're good.
Right.
They never do that.
No.
There's no end to it. Yeah.
Right.
And I like the point that that Dawn makes in that, well, if you don't eat, you'll get weak, and then you can't work, and then you'll never pay it off.
And then you'll get sick, and then we'll do more, and then you'll never. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So you'll never
right.
win.
You'll never win.
You'll never get out.
And so, I mean, it comes down to it that apparently, like her and Noah get friendly.
Not friendly,
but they become friends. He gives her the green sucker, Emily Green.
All right, the green sucker.
The green sucker.
Is that slang from your time period?
We in our day, we give them the green sucker.
So the Irish call it.
But so they. And of course Gorman finds that sucker too when she's looking for it again. Yeah. He's like, "You're looking for this," and like that was really weird. Like he was like trying to put it in her mouth and all that stuff, and
it was weird.
So then you definitely got the whole rapey vibe.
Yeah, very rapey vibe coming from Officer Gorman.
Right. You find out like through just different, conversations that. This is like an ongoing thing. Dawn is like in charge, but she like in order to keep the men satisfied, she turns the other cheek to a lot of bad things.
She's almost being walked all over. And there's one line where Noah says that she's trapped herself.
Right.
Like, we're all trapped here. And he says something like, it's kind of messed up. She's kind of trapped herself,
Right.
And not that I have any empathy for Dawn. I mean, I think she's totally a bitch, and I hope that she gets her face bitten off by a zombie.
Exactly.
But I do think that she's kind of like, the same way we saw, like, Rick in season 2, where he'd kind of gotten to the point where it's like, I don't want to be this anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm not your group leader. Like, I never even asked for this.
When I was watching, I could never get. I mean, obviously she's bad, but I could never get is she really bad or is she just?
Yeah, I think it's partially she's kind of stuck there too.
She's just kind of I was gonna say it's situational. So
because here's another thing too to think about. Like if she was timid and she wasn't like one of the guys, then Officer Gorman would just rape her too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I mean. It's almost like I'm not saying she's doing the right thing, but she's stuck.
She's stuck
doing that.
When this started, she was probably the superior officer.
Yeah.
Not necessarily by, talent or whatever it would be.
You say that, but in the photo at the end of the episode, is Gorman giving her an award, presenting her an award, or is she presenting him an award?
I don't know.
I'd have to relook at the picture.
And then there's the picture of her and the officer that she replaced a guy that got bit. So I think she was second in command. Remember she talks about the friend that went crazy or whatever.
Yeah.
And they had to let him die, I guess. But she took over for him. So I guess she was I don't know, maybe they were close to each other kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think at some point she realized that Gorman and them could easily, usurp her, power, and that she has to let them do some unusual things to make sure she survives. Much like in the next episode with Eugene, I don't think she's necessarily lying or anything like that, but she's using her situation to her advantage.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean.
I kind of got the impression. So, at the end of this episode, whenever the zombie Dawn is in the office, and I guess she died from, blood loss from they weren't able to treat the wound well.
About Joan?
Maybe? Yeah, Joan. I was kind of thinking that what if she had just had enough of Gorman shit and killed herself in that office is what I originally thought.
Well, I was wondering how she got in that office.
Was there a key to get in, or did
I can't remember.
Did Beth just walk in?
I think Beth just walked in. But why would she go in the office? I wonder why she was in there.
I don't know, and they don't exactly explain it away. Like they don't exactly show you enough evidence,
right?
That it's not necessarily.
Maybe she just went. Maybe she knew she was dying. She wanted to go after Dawn or Gorman or both, knowing that they would come in there.
Yeah. I don't know. I was curious about that. You know what I just found? This can't be real.
What?
There's a picture online. I was looking for the officer photo where Officer Dawn and Officer Gorman are passing the thing. I didn't find it, but instead I found a picture of Rick, Shane, and Dawn all in a police photo together.
Oh.
But the photo, it's not, it's a woman in a police uniform. It kind of looks like her. I think this could just be fans going wild, man. I don't know that that's actually
Conspiracy theories.
I would love for that to be a real thing.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
But I don't think it is. Oh, here's the photo. Damn, you can't really see if that's Gorman. I think it is Gorman in the photo. It's definitely just her and another officer. It may not be, though. It may be, like you said, it may be a superior officer even to...
Because I know she talks about, the guy that was in control...
Oh, okay.
Goes crazy, but I don't know if it has anything to do with the picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so essentially, she's got to do what she's got to do. Noah discusses with Beth the possibility of leaving.
Oh, and it's important too that he's from Richmond,
yeah, and he
Virginia.
says, yeah, they kind of give background, and he's from Richmond, and he just kind of mentions in passing that Richmond, or at least part of Richmond, has walls around it, which we know that in the comics they're going to Alexandria, and there's like the Alexandria Free Zone and things like that have walls. So maybe that Noah leads them back to Richmond or something like that. And we know they're filming it currently in a location with walls around.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there is actually a city in Richmond that's, and I can't find it fast enough. I don't think there is. I think it's just made up for the show. Yeah, I think this is Alexandria. I think this is
going that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is weird to me that it's in Virginia.
Yeah. Well, I mean, DC.
Yeah.
I mean, it would. You guess that they're down south. They're going to come up from the south, which is going to be Alexandria or Richmond.
Yeah.
That you're going to hit, because
I mean, here's why it's weird to me, is like, what are they going to do? So all this time they've been just wandering around Georgia, and then now Beth's back in Atlanta, and we know this next episode is going to be Daryl and Carol back in Atlanta.
Right.
So they're like back where they started. They haven't gone anywhere.
No. Well, talking about the distances and things like that. When the bus crashes in the next episode, like he says, we've only been 15 miles.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, 15 miles? Good Lord. They've been gone for like a day. I mean, and then he mentions, after having to clear things out of the road and stuff like that, but still, I was like, wow, 15
It doesn't
miles.
make a whole lot of sense how far they've went.
They've essentially, I think they've been walking in like a circle almost.
Yeah.
Or going back and forth.
Now, granted, they haven't been trying to get anywhere.
No,
until Noah shows up, until Abraham started wanting to go to Washington, and then Noah's going to show up and want to go to Virginia. Until then, they were just trying to find somewhere. Somewhere, yeah. So, I mean.
So now they're kind of like have a purpose.
On a mission, yeah. But I'm just thinking like how long it would take you to get from Atlanta to Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, it's a long way. Definitely.
Without any real transportation except for what you find.
Yeah. And I mean, you're going to have to take,
that just
a
seems,
lot of back roads and things like that, because the interstates have got to be clogged.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, are we just going to, like, next season, bam,
all of a sudden,
they're in Richmond?
They're there and skip like a whole trip.
That's so weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know how that's going to work out, but they're, like you said, they've already built the city. They're already filming in there.
Right. So
if they're shown filming there, then that means like.
Right.
That means
they're there.
Yeah. That means
something's happened, or that's not it. It's something similar to it.
Yeah. Maybe they just put walls around because they're tired of people watching them film. How are people going to do the tourism thing though? Right, they can't go in this walled
city. Here's this wall.
No, it's definitely. I definitely feel like they're building. It's the walls.
Yeah, I think
Richmond,
so.
Virginia.
Yeah, I think so too. But Noah's like from up there. He says he and his dad had to come down to look for, I guess a cousin. Did he say, or his grandfather?
I think it was a cousin.
I think it was. But anyway, so these people found him, and he said they were hurt. And they told him they could only save one of them.
Yeah.
And they saved Noah.
And Noah says it was because he was the weak one.
Because he was the weak one, and they knew his father would be harder to control. And kind of the same thing with, you got Beth and that Joan. It's a lot of these people are people that they can control.
They're not picking up Rick, Abraham, or Daryl.
No, not at all. So, she decides she's going to take a chance, I guess. I mean, you had that whole thing where she kills the doctor by giving him the wrong medication.
Yeah.
And I think she knows that, that makes her realize that doctor, because he was kind of friendly with her. Yeah. And I think she kind of had the idea she could trust him. And then I think that just ruined everything. Yeah. She was like, now I can't trust anybody here besides maybe Noah. I think she realizes she needs to get out of here. So she agrees. She goes to the office. She looks for the key. She sees Joan on the floor, basically dead.
I can't believe she didn't. I guess maybe she wanted her to turn.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
But she's also like, stepping right in front of her mouth.
Right in front of. That's why I kept thinking like she could reach out and just bite her right now.
Yeah, I think it was a smart decision to leave her.
I do too. Yeah, obviously because it helped her.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she finds the key and everything, and then all of a sudden Officer Gorman's there. And he's like, oh, I got you now, baby, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she, I guess Beth sees that Joan is turning or whatever, and she like entices Gorman over, and wham bam, he gets bitten, and
yep, gets his comeuppance.
He gets his comeuppance, his face comeuppance, and then Beth escapes. She
how crazy would it have been? So we know how it ends, but how crazy would it have been if that was it?
Right.
Like if just shit breaks out, her and Noah make it out of the hospital, and she's on her way back to Daryl.
Yeah, no, then you're like, what?
Like all this time.
And that was it.
That one episode. I bet it's only going to be 2 or 3 episodes, though. I don't think it'll go longer.
Oh, I don't think so either. Because, I mean, there's only 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
The mid-season
and they're not
finale.
the mid-season finale isn't going to happen at this hospital.
Right. No.
It's so crazy the way they're doing this season.
I mean, it could end at the hospital, but it's going to be like an end and then a new beginning.
If they're already filming in Alexandria or whatever, mid-season finale is going to have something to do with that.
Well, I mean, maybe.
But they're already filming. They filmed the second to the last episode of the whole season,
of the
right?
whole season, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 16 episodes or whatever.
So it might be the end of this season that they get there. Yeah.
That's
probably more likely.
And I can, if say the mid-season finale ends with the hospital thing being over and them going, maybe they do skip ahead and that Chandler Riggs looks older,
Yeah.
Maybe it took them a while, but nothing crazy happened. They didn't run into like, the snake handlers or something like that. It was just normal until they get close and, it picks up with them outside of Alexandria and then things start happening.
I kind of got this. So we haven't heard about so for all we know, they were locked inside this hospital the entire time. And they never saw anybody from the outside world except for the people they came and took. Mm-hmm. But
she's expecting someone to come rescue them. Remember, Dawn says, we're just doing this until someone comes to our rescue. So, I mean, she's still under that delusion.
Yeah. Because all right, tinfoil hat. Like I got a conspiracy theory. If I were writing the season, this might be what I would do. We've already ran into one group, the Terminus people, died in 4 episodes. 3 episodes. If you're being generous, they had 4 episodes. They show up in 4 or 5 episodes. And they mention these, people that came and threw them in boxcars and mistreated them. And then we didn't hear much about them after that.
Right.
And then what if we get more backstory on these Slabtown people and we find out a similar story? The previous guy that they talked about that went crazy, maybe he's part of this, he's part of this faction of people. And then on their way to Richmond, Virginia, they run into more made-up groups of people.
Right.
And then just all along the way, they keep hearing this story of these people that are just absolute brutes and are, taking what they want and throwing people in the storage and and then whenever they get to Alexandria,
they're there.
They're there, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what. But then again, that's a reach because, as far as we know, the hospital guys have just been in the hospital the whole time, and this is not even connected to that. But I'm just trying to draw a connection there.
Oh yeah. Because
it's weird to me that they just moved on from Terminus so fast.
I know, right?
That's really weird to me, and I feel like it had to have purpose. Like I don't feel like it was just those 3 episodes and nothing more. Of course, we haven't gone back to the church. We still don't know what's going on with Father Gabriel and all that. It still could tie in.
It still could tie in, definitely. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be leading somewhere. Definitely. Yeah. So Beth gets away with the key. He tells Dawn that Gorman's waiting for her in the office, And then she goes, finds Noah.
Yeah.
I guess that's her way of getting rid of Dawn too, huh?
Oh, dude, yeah. I was hoping that she got bit too.
I was like, wow, if she kills off her too in this first episode, I was like, what the hell? But so like, they like decide they're going to go down this elevator shaft where she had previously been dumping bodies.
This seems like the worst escape plan.
Right?
It may be the only escape plan, but it's definitely the worst.
Yeah. Not good. So Beth goes first, and she gets down to the elevator, and then Noah comes down, and of course slips, falls into the hole, and with the bodies and the goo and all that stuff. And then
luckily there's a big pile of bodies.
Yeah, luckily there's a big pile of bodies, but he gets hurt a little bit because he's limping and all that stuff. But so she goes through. All of a sudden, the zombies start coming out. It's dark. She's shooting zombies.
She shoots like 37 bullets.
Right.
With one clip.
In the dark, she hits every zombie in the forehead. I mean, like, wow.
Yeah.
That's some, accuracy.
Yeah.
Big time.
We did have foreshadowing of Daryl showing her how to shoot.
That's true. We did.
But still, he'd be a damn good teacher.
That's a damn, right. So they get out. They wind up getting out this door.
They did show the cars with the crosses on them.
They did show the car with the crosses
just to
on
confirm that was the same people.
Them. And there was like maybe four or five of them. 4 or 5
different ones.
And so they're running through this thing, and there's like all these zombies coming after them, and like it's obviously that she's kind of standing guard kind of thing, I guess, as it were, while he gets ahead because he's hurt. So she gets caught up with fighting these things. He gets ahead of her, and then all of a sudden the police officers come out from behind her.
Yeah.
And like he winds up getting through the gate, and she's pinned down by one. I think it's Dawn. It may have been Dawn, and they're like,
I think they do show her at the end.
Yeah. They're like, we got you kind of thing, and she smiles because Noah gets away.
Do you think whenever they reunite, because I think they will.
Oh, definitely.
Do you think that she's going to have any animosity towards Noah?
No, not at all.
I don't think so either. I think she
wanted that. In a way.
I don't think she wanted to go back, but I think that she was glad that he got away.
At least he got away, yeah. So that's, that's kind of how that ends. I mean.
Yeah, well, and then.
Well, I was going to say, we forgot a whole, even. I forgot.
There's 2 parts we forgot.
There's 2 parts we forgot. It's revealed that, she kind of stands up for herself, I guess you would say.
She confronts.
She confronts
Dr.
the doctor
Edwards.
about I forgot what the medicine was, but it was like tomato, and
he's allergic to tomatoes.
I give him tomatoes. And so she knew. I mean, she knew that he was lying. And basically says, no more of this. And then she says the same thing to Dawn. She's like, I'm out of here. What y'all are doing is kind of, basically wrong. And I'm getting out of here as soon as I can. And you think she's got like, what is it? The scissors in her hands.
Yeah, she's got like a scalpel or something.
A scalpel in her hand. And
what do you think she would have done?
I don't know what her plan was.
She couldn't stab everybody in that room.
Right? Just running down.
Yeah. But
I mean, she would take out, I guess, Dawn first because the doctor is a wimp. She could have killed him easily. But at that point, a patient comes in, and she looks down and notices it's Carol.
Dun, 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 dun.
And then, she's like, oh, yeah, my bitch is here.
And then she puts the scalpel back. So the thing I liked about this episode is they have that reoccurring theme of like these people take the weak, not the strong.
Right.
And I love how, and we were talking about this at work, I love how Carol looked like the weak one.
The weak one.
Whenever she's highly more likely to burn this entire place down.
She's going to raise it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But what if Carol gets there and she's like, that's the weird thing about Carol, is because she could go 2 ways.
For it.
She might be like,
this is a good idea.
This is a really good idea.
So I could control some people.
Nah, she totally, especially with Beth there.
I was like, Beth, I'm gonna make you my bitch.
Especially with Beth there, she's definitely.
Oh yeah, she's gonna she's going to go crazy.
It's funny how they've done this to us, where they made Rick so badass that we knew at the end of season 4 that like I'm not even worried about them in this car. They literally zip tie Rick up and put a knife to his throat and slit the people beside him's throat, and we still go,
he's getting away with
this guy is gonna get killed by Rick. Like this guy,
I don't know how, but it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. And now Carol's that.
And
badass.
Even Rick said it. I'm gonna kill you with that machete. Yeah, exactly. Now it's Carol, and from the teasers that her and Daryl get into a scrape with these people apparently. Mm-hmm. So Daryl's gonna be pissed off too.
So who do you think is in, and this might be bleeding over into the stuff at the end of the show, but who do you think is that Daryl's carrying covered by the cloth?
I think it's
it ain't Beth.
No, it's not Beth, because obviously
that's just weird. Why would they rescue her?
I think I will say that they rescue somebody during this whole thing where they're looking for Beth.
It almost has to be somebody new.
It's got to be somebody. Yeah, it's got to be something that you don't know.
That's weird though.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. But it can't be Beth.
There's like 10% of me that thinks it might be Beth.
They wouldn't show that.
You don't think they would even tease it?
I don't think they would tease that. I think they're teasing it to make you think
you think it's Beth. Yeah. Yeah, maybe 5%. Maybe I got 5% thinking that it might be. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, right? Now that you know like where Beth has been, so you get Rick and them, and Daryl comes out of the woods, and he's got somebody, and figure it's Noah. So now you've got Rick and that whole group, and Daryl with Noah probably going back to the hospital. I would imagine that's what's going to happen. Now the question is with self-help. So they're leaving to go to Washington in the bus.
Yeah.
Bus breaks down, flips, they get tossed around, and obviously we talked about a minute ago, they've only been 15 miles.
Yeah, I wrote that down because Eugene brought it up because he wants to go back.
He wants to go back.
Eugene doesn't want to do this at all.
No, Eugene does not want. I think he liked
being.
Despite what happened, he liked being there.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, it's only been 50 miles. Just go back. We can. And, Abraham's like, no, it's go forward or it's a failure.
The B side of that is it seems like a dumbass idea to not just go back. Like if you're only 15 miles away.
You can hoof that in a day.
They could have gotten back, and then they're back with the group. Because I understand why he wanted to leave the night before they killed all the Terminus people.
Now
now they're dead. Who cares?
Now there's no threat.
Just hang out with Rick, and we're all going to Washington.
Right? What's another day?
Yeah.
But obviously with the flashbacks from Abraham, you kind of get the understanding that he has to do this. This is the only reason he is alive now, because he was going to commit suicide. Yeah. This is his purpose in life, and he can't veer from that plan or path at all. And and obviously you see that throughout the episode with some of the things he does. Yeah. But I guess we'll go through those flashbacks. Because that's kind of how it starts with Abraham, is like beating this dude in the head with this can of something.
Which was the teaser that they showed. Twice in a row they showed the beginning of the episode as a teaser. Yeah. I kind of made a mental note of that, and I wonder if this teaser that we got
is the episode
is going to be similar.
Beginning. I could see that. But like, I guess the first thing you notice, besides the fact that he's beating the crap out of this dude, is that he's wearing civilian clothes. Yeah. And not the military stuff. So, obviously, this is a different time.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of thinking, like, because he beats the guy with the can, and then he walks up and you see, who I assumed it was his wife and kids.
His wife and kids, yeah.
and they look scared of him. And I was thinking, what if it's revealed that this is before the zombie apocalypse? Like, like that's why they're scared. Right. Yeah, like something else happened. This guy just like did something very minuscule, like he tried to mug him or something, and then just Abraham just goes nuts and just beats the guy's face.
That's the last can of Sloppy Jones.
Yeah, it's Black Friday, right. And there's a crazy deal.
But yeah, that would be insane.
That would have been a crazy reveal, right?
But yeah, so like you know, they do show he walks in and his wife and kids are because he's yelling Ellen or something like that. I thought he kept saying Alan. I was like, who the hell's Alan? Then I was like, no, it's Ellen. And he goes in this thing and this woman and two kids are like looking at him like just terror struck, you know, kind of thing. And he like realizes he's got blood all over him. And then, you know, the next thing, you know, he's looking at all the blood, and I guess they flash back again. He's waking up the next day, and, you know, he sees that they're gone, and there's a note saying, hey, don't look for us.
Yeah.
Don't try to find us. And then, you know, I get in the talking dead afterwards, he's talking about how those people were survivors with him. They were his neighbors in real life from the comics.
Yeah.
And that they had raped, I don't know if, again, with the comic, who knows, but I don't know if he was just saying that they raped the wife or the wife and the kids, but I thought he said the wife and the kids.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens. He comes back and finds out, and then he beats them all to death. And then,
it's weird that they were so scared of him. Like, wouldn't they know?
Right? Especially if that happened to you, wouldn't you know that he would snap and do anything to protect? I mean, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Especially that it's taking place in the zombie apocalypse, and you know that she's going to run. She's by herself with two kids. I mean, what's she going to do?
Yeah, that seems
very weird.
Yeah.
And obviously, it doesn't work because at the end and the last flashbacks, he sees his wife and kids dead and having been torn apart by zombies, and that's when he's going to commit suicide. And then he's got the gun in his mouth. He's getting ready to do it, and then he hears a guy say, you know, hey, don't do that. Help me, help me. And it's Eugene doing like...
Yeah, just being Eugene.
He's like speed walking kind of thing, and like stumbling back and forth almost like he's drunk.
He's like, I think they're getting faster.
And I think they're getting faster. And then like, you know, Abraham comes out and kills him and then walks away. And you see like the wheels spinning with Eugene. He's like, hey, I have a mission, or a very important mission.
Yeah. And
then, you know, Abraham stops. And that's, you know, the beginning of the beautiful friendship.
And then hilarity ensues.
Hilarity ensues. But yeah, I mean, like, so obviously you get from that Abraham was at the end of the ropes. I mean, he was killing himself.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say that, you know, the mission is the most important thing, because, you know, he went to the brink, and this is the only reason he's alive is to get this guy to Washington.
Yeah.
And nothing is going to stop that, because if he doesn't, then maybe he's going to kill himself again or something like that.
Yeah. And kind of the main, so like it's hard to talk about that without talking about the ending. Like kind of the main point to this episode is that Eugene finally reveals what we suspected, that he's full of crap.
That he's full of crap,
yeah.
Right.
But I like how like Abraham had to believe it though. Like
definitely.
If he didn't believe that Abraham was full of crap, then A, he had nothing to live for.
Right.
And then B, what happened to his family
was for nothing.
This is the way the world is now, and there's no saving it.
There's no saving it.
Yeah. And so even the actor that played Abraham, you know, said like, you know, Abraham's character, like, even whenever you would see, like, you know, Sasha saw through it.
Right.
I think maybe.
I think Glenn. And
Glenn and Maggie
seen through it.
I don't think they believed it. Yeah.
I don't think so.
But Abraham was always
Oh, it was 100%.
Yeah, because he wouldn't let himself not believe.
No,
because
there's no way.
That was what he was holding on to.
Right.
You know?
But yeah, so, you know, so now you know kind of what their life is like. And you find out, too, that there's been a lot of people in their groups before.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was crazy.
I forgot about that. Yeah, they mentioned the whole list of people.
I think. Well, we'll get to that at the end. But yeah, I mean, so, you know, Eugene is right. You know, he's uncomfortable when they're riding in that bus. You could tell too. Like he was just acting weird even for Eugene. But then, like I said, the bus flips. They gone around like some walkers, and all of a sudden the bus flips and like blows, and you know they're on foot. They go to the I guess the closest town because they're going to go forward, so they keep walking. And you do see Eugene finally stab a walker to help Tara out. And it's the first time that he's, you know, even before that, he was kind of like, oh my God, I got a knife in my hand. You know, kind of, but
it was enough that he couldn't let it happen.
He couldn't let it happen to Tara. So you can see like some of the things starting to come out now with Eugene, like how much more danger am I going to put these people in? All these other people that I've let die to get me to somewhere that I'm lying about.
I think he's living with the guilt of the lie, but I also think that he's trying to prove his worth to the group.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think he feels closer now to this group. And you know, I don't know what the relationship was with like the other people, but I think he really feels like a bond with everybody. And which is why he wants to go back to the church. He wants that group. So anyway, so they go to they barricade themselves into a library, and they decide they're gonna spend the night, wait it out. Regroup and then head out the next day. Then you get a whole Glenn and Abraham are like looking out at the zombies walking up and down, and Glenn's like, "Hey, why don't you go take a rest?" And Abraham's, "No, I'm gonna get a piece of ass." So you know why Rosita is on the show.
Yep.
Because she hasn't said hardly 2 words.
Nope. Since
she's been on there, and then this episode she actually talks, and you like see her bandaging Abraham up. That's the first time you really ever have seen them interact.
There was a few episodes where it was so subtle that I didn't know if we should talk about it.
Right.
But there's a few episodes where she seems kind of frustrated with Abraham.
Right.
Like in a coupley kind of way.
In a coupley way, yeah, definitely.
But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to imply anything because like you said, they haven't shown a lot because Abraham's been wrapped up in Eugene this whole time.
Yeah, definitely.
But
and we were talking about the whole thing with his hair, with Abraham's hair, growing longer, and talking about he's going to retire, or like I'm losing this life, and she's like, because she's saying you need to get a haircut, and like maybe he sees that this journey's coming to an end. They're almost to Washington, relatively speaking. But,
where do you think that took place in the first scene, where he's beating the people in the
Houston, probably.
Wow, damn! Did they mention that it's in Texas?
I want to say I know that's where they started.
Wow.
So they made it from because he says they made it from Houston to Atlanta.
Wow, I didn't realize that. They say that in like the introduction episode where they show those 3.
No, I think they showed it in this episode.
Really?
I think they talked about being in Houston.
Huh.
When they're talking, I think when they're when it's toward the end, they're talking about all those people that have been killed. I think they talk about being in Houston then. But yeah, I mean they've come a long way, regardless. So anyway, so Abraham goes to get his piece of ass, and they actually show like them doing it on a library couch.
besides Glenn and Maggie, probably the first sex scene since season 1.
Yeah.
Besides Glenn and Maggie.
Right.
And even that was only a few times.
Yeah, and this was like, you actually got to see some ass. It was
Abraham's.
Abraham's ass, but you got to see it. Unlike, what did they, on Talking Dead, they kept saying he was like a smooth as a like baby dolphin or something like that. But so they're like doing it on this thing, and then Tara says, or not Tara, Rosita says, he's watching us again. And then the camera pans over, and like you see the stack of books, and you just see his head, Eugene's head.
You know what would have been great? If it would have been like the scene on E.T. where there's all these stuffed animals.
These other stuffed animals.
And he's just in the middle.
He's just in the middle of them, like. So Eugene is like watching them have sex, and I mean, not even. I mean, he's hiding, but he's not hiding because his head's like perfectly in a light that's shining right where his head is, and he happens to be in the self-help section of the library, which is funny because he may or may not have been self-helping at the same time, and so they like. Abraham's just like, well, just keep on. It don't matter. He doesn't care.
He said he doesn't hurt nobody.
He ain't hurt nobody. And then, of course, Tara busts him.
Yeah, and they have this weird relationship between Eugene and Tara this episode.
I know it was. I kept thinking, I was like, maybe she's going to like let him do her or something.
I was thinking that too. Like even in this scene, I was thinking she was going to be like, I'm into girls.
But this one time.
But Maggie ain't interested.
Right.
And it's the zombie apocalypse.
Right.
I'm gonna let it go this one time.
Right.
You got long hair,
right?
But that never happened. And,
no.
and I don't know. Like it was weird. There's one episode 2. Yeah, episode 2. Whenever they're talking about it's where Father Gabriel's leading them to that canned food store.
Yeah.
And they say something about things are in short supply these days or something like that. And they show Tara, and she's kind of got this like look on her face, like she's
right.
like that just hit her. And I was thinking like, yeah, dude, like in the non-zombie apocalypse, you kind of have this extra hurdle to cross where you have to find out if somebody is also a lesbian,
right?
And then you have to find out if they're interested in you,
right?
Now it's like there's even less people,
right? Definitely. The ratios have gone way down.
Yeah. So it's like going to be really hard
right.
for Tara to find somebody, and
right.
like, I thought it was funny that they kind of had that little moment with Tara, but I don't know that she's ready to switch teams just yet.
Right? No,
I don't know. Maybe not with Eugene anyway.
Well, I mean, like I said, Glenn could be Mormon.
What?
Take on multiple wives.
Oh, yeah, I got you now. I was like, what does that mean? I thought that was code for something that I just didn't know the code.
Back in our day.
Yeah, green suckers.
Green suckers and Mormons. But so Eugene basically says, kind of makes it out like the only thing he's got going for him is what he knows.
Yeah.
And the only reason he is still alive, or that they even keep him around, is because of that. If he didn't have that secret, they would just toss him aside, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he sees himself as not having any value, and then he kind of says that he wants to be with the group. He wants the group back together, and he sabotaged the bus.
That's pretty crazy.
He put glass in the gas tank.
When he said that, I knew he was
right.
Well, my first reaction was, I think that he did that because he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to leave the group.
Well, that's what he says, that he thought it was going to break down immediately.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to like go that long.
So do you think every mile he's just?
He was just sitting there like, "Oh, this is going to be bad."
It hasn't happened yet.
Hold on. But so yeah, I mean, like, and Tara's like, look, she's just like, don't tell anybody else. This is our secret.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy.
Which is pretty crazy. And she says, we're doing this, yes, because you have this information, but more because, you're one of us. You're part of this group.
Yeah.
We're gonna stick together and do what we need to do to survive, even if that means protecting you, blah, blah, blah.
Do you think that she would have been able to, or do you think that do you think Eugene would have been able to tell the truth at the end of this episode had he not had that conversation with her?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think he's dealt with his guilt for a long time.
And I think that broke it. Like, it's kind of like the thing that snapped it.
Yeah, it's easier to live the lie if you think that your honest version of yourself has no value. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think he was already like feeling guilty, and then
he has this conversation. He has the conversation with Maggie at the fire truck. It's all those different things that kind of like let him know that.
What happens at the fire truck? I don't remember a conversation with Maggie.
When they're talking about Samson and the hair.
Oh yeah, that was a weird ass side of the story that I don't think I've ever heard.
Yeah.
In Sunday school my whole life, I never heard that part of the story.
So, yeah, I mean, I think all that kind of contributed to the fact that I think he felt comfortable now.
Yeah.
That I don't know that he should have expected any different reaction from
No, he
Abraham,
knew that was going to happen.
But I think he was comfortable with how everyone else would have taken it.
Yeah.
So that's
I guess I'll wait till we get there. But, like, that scene where everybody's just, like, they don't... Like, they're all waiting to see how everybody else is going to react.
Right? It's like, but yeah. So they basically after that, they just the next day they're deciding, are we going to leave? And Maggie and I think even Rosita are kind of like, hey, let's stick around this place.
Yeah.
We could get a lot of supplies. We could get water. We could get all this stuff, and
they might be able to just stay there until
they
they see Rick and them
stay
come
there.
through.
Yeah, I mean, I think they even kind of said that, and then Abraham again is like, it's forward or nothing, and he's like, we've got water. And he opens the door, and there's this fire truck that's parked, right there, that's just covered in ick and blood and all kinds of stuff. They decide that, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. They're going to take this fire truck and they're going to leave. They wind up getting it started. It goes like a couple feet, and, it's kind of foreshadowing. When it pulls away, you see the door swing open behind it, and I'm like, yep, okay, there's a lot of zombies in that firehouse. And then, of course, it dies, and then all the zombies start pouring out of the firehouse. Fight ensues, and then all of a sudden the fire hose comes on. And it's liquid fury from Eugene.
Yeah.
He finally decides to take initiative.
Yeah.
And unloads on some zombies, and I think that's another thing that is kind of another contributing factor. I think he's getting some confidence. He does this. He winds up saving everybody, and they're all like, "Wow, it's crazy!" And then, like, I love how they show Abraham on top of the fire truck at the end, or when he's cleaning out the thing, he's just like grabbing just innards and just like it's nothing. Hey, let's just clean this thing out. But obviously it doesn't work, or not for very long. They show another scene where they're a few miles down the road, I guess, and the fire truck's broke down again.
Yeah.
They keep discussing this stench.
Yeah.
That they can't, it's even worse than anything they've ever experienced or whatever. And so they leave again on foot. And I think that's when they, another time when they discuss going back. They discuss
because they don't want to go through the zombies.
As I said, they come around the corner and they see like where this big slaughterhouse had been.
Why are there so many zombies there?
I guess there were so many animals maybe at that slaughterhouse.
Maybe they were all attracted to it.
And then they never left. Or they just hanging out there now. I don't know.
Huh.
But yeah, so I mean, it's basically like a big sea of zombies.
Yeah.
Like more than you could ever handle. And Abraham is just determined that they're going to keep going forward, and everyone, and even Glenn, they get in each other's face, and Glenn's like, I'm not talking about turning back, I'm just talking about going south so we can get around these people. And he's like, no, there's no diverting. We're going through this. He goes, we'll just drive over them with the fire truck. And even Glenn's like, the fire truck can't even make it.
Yeah.
Like now, how do you expect it to do this? If it breaks down in the middle, we're dead.
It's a very Ahab moment.
Right.
He's hell-bent.
He's
even if he kills
hell-bent.
Everybody.
Right. Yeah. And he grabs Eugene by the arm, and he's dragging him back toward the fire truck, and everyone's trying to stop him. And that's when Eugene yells, "I'm not a scientist."
Which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, and everyone's like,
yeah.
What? And then he's like, I'm not a scientist. I made everything up. No one's going to get killed on my part, kind of thing. And I mean, everyone is just dumbfounded,
Yeah.
And I mean, like, Abraham's just like, I mean, he can't even comprehend it. I don't think, I mean, and he kind of goes through the whole, talking about this is what I had to do to survive. I knew, and he kind of even says, I'm a smart guy. I'm probably smarter than all y'all. I can do all these other things. He's like, I figured DC is the place to go. It's going to be fortified. It's going to be where people go to survive. So that's what I need to get there. And I figured, and it even says I figured whoever I'd take with me, they would just be happy they got to DC where it would be safe. And then he kept saying that the closer he got, the more he didn't know how he was going to, like, what do you do when you get there? And they're like, okay, go ahead and do this thing, kind of thing. So he knew he had to spill his guts at some time.
Yeah.
And he was not about to ride through that valley of zombies. So this was the time to say it. And Abraham did not react.
I think Eugene knew this was coming.
Yeah. I mean, he had to have known it was coming.
Yeah.
Definitely. But he punches him in the face like.
How about how Eugene fell out too? I mean,
I know. Well, he punches him the first time, and everybody's like, "Oh!" And then he hits him that second time. That one was even worse. And I was like, "Oh!" I literally thought, "Oh shit, he just killed him."
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that he killed him.
I looked it up because at work the next day, Ashley was like, "Did he kill him? Is he dead?" And I was like, "I don't think so."
I don't think so.
And then I broke down and had to, because I had said I purposely didn't look up Eugene's Wikipedia page because I didn't want to know whether he was telling the truth or not. And I looked it up, and he's definitely not dead.
No.
Because he's got some important stuff coming up. But
yeah, I mean, they turn him over, and his face is just like,
yeah.
Oh, and then like Abraham walks down the road and like goes down on his knees and screams, and that's when it flashes back to the whole kid. So it tells you like this mission. Everything that he's been doing is to make up for his kids and all this stuff. And now he finds out that everything he's been doing has been a lie. And it's another one of those things. It's kind of like with Merle. How are they going to accept this guy back into their group? I mean, obviously they are.
Eugene?
But yeah.
Yeah, for
sure. But I mean, like, how is Abraham and Eugene going to interact? Are they even going to interact? How's it going to?
I don't think it'll be right away, but I don't think that Abraham is just wanting to just kill Eugene either. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think he's. I think that it's.
I think deep down he probably understands what he did, or he will understand what he did.
Yeah.
But at this moment, it's just that, total fuck you moment kind of thing.
Yeah, I think just for survival purposes, Abraham's going to stay with the group.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he is smart. I mean, he's obviously smart. He's done something. Like, did you notice the thing where in the library where he starts the fire?
Yeah. He
grabs the batteries and does the aluminum foil thing and starts. I mean, that's obviously useful.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has some useful knowledge and may actually, have some good information to help them survive in Washington. But the initial meeting between him and Abraham and all of that was a lie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and for that reason, I think that.
Do you think we'll find out who he really was?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think there's enough question. It's not. Well, I mean, we still don't know who Michonne was. You know.
Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird how they don't really explain what people
Right.
did before.
I mean, like, was he just some actual total boob hick with a mullet that just happened to be
Yeah,
a street smart
he was
kid?
just an internet guru, and he knew all these tricks.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the vision I get from it. That's kind of the idea that I get from him.
So now the whole thing is, where do they go now? So you've got the other group with Rick and then Daryl coming out. Obviously, he's going to have Noah, and then they're going to go back after Beth. So are they going to now? Now does Eugene, because of all this, it doesn't matter if they go forward. So I don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
He has no argument now as far as Abraham. He has no argument to keep going forward. So do they go back looking for the group again? Do they wind up back at the church and the other group's gone, or do they somehow get into Atlanta and then by coincidence they all run into each other? Because I mean, I would hope that that's not it. Because what's the chances of two groups running into each other in Atlanta? I mean, I don't, but I mean,
with Terminus, they all had signs pointing that way,
right?
But there's no signs pointing at this hospital.
No, other than the little blue hospital signs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
the ones like on the interstate and everything.
But yeah, I mean, like, so I mean, obviously they're all going to get back together, but are they going to all get back together in Atlanta? Is that like? They never showed either how many of these hospital people there are. Like how many people are in this hospital? Is it just like 4 or 5?
Yeah, we don't know.
Or is there like, how many floors are they running? I mean, obviously he's one doctor, so there can't be that many people.
No, yeah.
But how many cops? Like how many bad guys are we talking? So if like Rick's group and then Abraham and them show up, is that an overwhelming number compared to the cops?
I'd say that's about how many people are there.
About the same.
About the same, yeah. Because I can't see him having many more than that, but at the same time, I can't see him running that place with much less than that.
No, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I think that's what's going to happen at some point. Like it's going to be like the whole Lord of the Rings thing, where like the Rick's group is going to show up and they're going to be battling the hospital people, and then all of a sudden, the sunlight's going to come out, and here comes Abraham and them like swooping down to like in the last minute to save the day. I mean, I was kind of interested to see what this next episode. I know it's going to, we know that it's about Carol and Daryl.
Yeah.
And we know. From what I read, there's going to be a flashback. This is when they're going to do the Carol flashback from after.
Oh, okay.
When Rick dropped her off, apparently. So we might get to see some of that. And then I would imagine we're going to actually see Daryl and Noah at the church thing. And then I think the next episode will
be picking up like, from there.
From there, like picking up going forward. Yeah. Instead of having all these episodes at the same time.
It's just weird that they did the whole if they go back to the church, if they just decide, well, we're just going to go back 15 miles to the church or however long it was.
Right.
And maybe 20 miles at this point. And that's just weird that they even left and came back in the first place.
Right? What I mean? Like I said, by this time, even if they go back to the church, the other group's already gone looking for Beth. By that, I mean, it's going to take them a good day to get back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would imagine that they're not going to.
I think they're going to end up in Atlanta somehow.
I think they are too.
Or they're going to keep going. They're just going to keep going.
But they get to get around that. Maybe they decide to go around that thing and somehow that brings them into close proximity.
That makes it enough time that they meet up, yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? Weird. I mean, yeah. But, I mean, obviously they are going to get together at some point. But, I think Carol and Daryl are going to battle with some of these cross-car people. I think, Daryl's going to be incapacitated in some way. So is Carol, and they're going to leave Daryl, take Carol, because of what we were talking about earlier. She's the woman, so she's the weak one. We'll leave the other one to die or be eaten. And I think Daryl probably wakes up and goes, it's time to go get reinforcements. He runs into Noah kind of thing, and he's like, hey. And obviously, I think they've been spying. From what I've seen of the preview, it's almost like they were watching the hospital for a while too. So I'm sure they've probably seen like Noah, and they've probably seen Beth.
I almost wonder if Carol intentionally gets taken.
That's the speculation online I've seen too. Is did she intentionally get taken? Now maybe she did, but it went a little bit not according to plan, because I think she was, pretty hurt. I don't think she was out of it, but I mean she looked hurt when they wheeled her in. Yeah. So I don't think she just like walked up and said, I surrender, take me into the hospital thing.
Well, they probably wouldn't have taken her that way.
Right. No.
So I mean, I think maybe they were smart enough to know that they knew they had to get in kind of a brawl to get taken. And
I mean, I imagine that, like I said, Daryl probably has seen Noah from them spying and says, hey, what's going on? And he tells them, and they go back to get reinforcements. And then at some point, he's going to mention that Richmond is safe because it's got walls around it. Yep. And they're going to head that way. Yep. And I think that happens in the next episode. All in that episode.
You think all that happens in the next episode?
No.
I don't think the whole...
That's going to be the next 3 episodes. Because there's 3 episodes left of this half season.
Well, what's the big finale then? Like, because they're going to do a cliffhanger at mid-season.
See, I don't know that they do. I think they end the hospital thing, and then they start on their journey to Washington or Richmond or wherever. And then I think there's going to be a gap in time when the second half comes back.
That's not the Gimple way, though, man.
That's the first time they've done a season ending.
But the mid-season cliffhangers, but they've usually had cliffhangers.
Have they really done?
They've usually done something big, not necessarily a cliffhanger. Right. There was Sophia, and then there was Merle and Daryl. Right. And then there was there was Herschel.
The Herschel.
Something big always happens at the mid-season.
Like I said, I think there's going to be a big battle at the hospital. I think that's going to be the big thing.
It almost has to be Beth, because who else could die mid-season finale?
Oh yeah, I mean,
and they're going to follow the same pattern.
Right.
I wonder if
Beth is going to die saving somebody again.
The only thing about that is it feels frustrating that they did all this to get Beth back,
and then
she just dies. Right. Yeah.
Well, it's what we've said before too. Whenever they make you focus on a character and get you liking them, that's because they're going to kill them.
Yeah. That's the pattern.
That's the pattern, and that's what they're doing.
I think you're right.
And I mean, obviously, at this point, you can't have all these characters that are safe. I mean, some people have to die. I mean, you can't kill. I mean, like I said, I've never watched Game of Thrones, but in this kind of setting, there's not that many people. So you can't kill people off like on a consistent basis, but you have to kill some people to make it believable. And I think that she's definitely one of those characters that she's one that people like, but she's
could
not.
also be Carol though.
Yeah, that's true.
Carol could get. I mean, they're setting up for either a Carol.
It could be 2 of them,
or Beth. It could be both.
I mean, you never know.
It'd be a big commitment.
That would be a big
commitment.
But, yeah. I mean, at some point you have to kill, somebody off. Mm-hmm. And obviously they still want to develop Rick, Carl. I think they've still got a lot to do with Glenn and Maggie, and Noah is probably going to be with them to get them north, so you're not going to kill him off. Yeah. And
Noah can't. Noah's way too.
So I mean, I would say that she's the safe assumption as somebody that's going to kill her or Carol. Tyrese, I mean, there's always
It could be Tyrese.
I mean, I don't think they would.
Or Sasha.
But a fringe character like Rosita or Sasha,
I don't think it would mean enough.
I don't think it would mean enough. Yeah, and I don't think Sasha would make sense. They killed Bob, so now we don't have a use for Sasha, so let's just kill her.
And maybe they can do something without killing somebody.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
That's just kind of what they've done in the past in the mid-season is some sort of shocking
and it could be
death.
One of those things where like the last season finale. Well, no, it was the mid-season where Rick bites the neck. That was the episode before. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, what the hell are they going to do for the finale now?
Yeah.
And then they, so they could kill somebody off.
No, he bites the neck in the finale, right?
Is it the finale? I thought
it's right at the beginning. It's right because remember
what happened? Something big happens, and everyone was like, "Wow, that happened." Because I think we even talked about it. We're like, "Wow, that happened," and they haven't even got to the finale yet.
No, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is the neck. Maybe it was the episode before. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't know, right? They're all bleeding together. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see. That's what's so good about the show too, because you can speculate and and everything we've tend to thought doesn't really come to fruition. Yeah. So
I really, if I mean, I'm guessing Carol or Beth. I'm almost leaning more towards Carol, just because they're kind of done with her story.
Right. She has done a lot.
She's just being a badass now.
Right.
You know,
and you can't have too many badasses.
No, you can't. No, because then they're unstoppable.
Right.
You know. Yeah. I kind of because they are getting to the point where I almost said this earlier and I didn't. On the show Dexter, like the character Dexter is almost untouchable. There's only a few episodes where like he's got an adversary that just can outdo him. You know what I mean? Most of the time he's sneaking around somebody's house and then the guy comes in and then you're like, I'm not even worried because he's going to pull out that fucking needle and he's going to stab him in the neck and then the guy's going to pass out and he's going to wake up on a table wrapped with saran wrap.
Yeah.
But like, and Carol's getting there where we just talked about it earlier. Like Carol's going to burn this whole place down. I know what's going to happen. Yeah. And so, I mean, maybe she's getting too much now where we just don't even fear that she's in danger anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
So I don't know. It could. I'm kind of leaning towards that'll be the mid-season finale, but
yeah,
who knows? I would be shocked if it were Beth. I don't really care. Like Beth, I like her character, but I would be okay if she didn't continue. Like if they killed her and it was a good way, I would be okay with it. Like I don't think she's needed for the rest of the show, but I'd be really shocked that they spent, an entire season basically, last half of last season, and then this whole first half of this season.
Building her up,
and then we find her and kill her. It's crazy.
And you got to figure that if they do that definitely means that the groups are going to get together at some point because they're not going to kill Beth off before her and Maggie get back together. And there's some kind of like reunion, and then something happens because it would be like, I don't know, anticlimactic if.
What if they did the whole Beth carrying the baby gets shot by officer?
Right, and crushes.
Yeah. What if that happens?
Yeah, I know.
They could do that whole scene just reenacted.
Reenacted with her instead of
I would kind of be okay with that, kind of being kind of like an homage to the comic a little.
Right.
And they skipped over that story, but it's just. Again, like it's weird that the baby has lived this long,
right?
And now I'm kind of like it might as well just stay.
I know, right? At some point, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you do with it. I mean, at this point, it's if you kill it, you're like, wow. They just, I mean, because if you do it like right away, like if it had been like born, and then like the first scene they walk out. And then like, hey, look at the baby, dead. It's like you don't have that chance. But now, like, she's been through all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like,
now
maybe that's what's going to make it so epic, though, is that you're so like, wow, this baby's made it through Crazy Chick and Pussy Tyrese and all this stuff, and then like, now it gets killed.
Gets crushed by Beth.
I don't know. I like it though. That's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, I could see him doing that. That would make. I don't know. I think that would piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
A lot of people that don't know that happened in the comic, I think they would just be like, what a shot from the hip kind of way to get rid of Beth.
Right.
And the baby all in one fell swoop.
Right.
they might not necessarily take it the same way.
No, I don't think so at all. But I think everyone's expecting the baby to die. I think pretty much the people who watch this show are pretty much. I would imagine most people think that the baby's going to die at some point.
It just is weird that it's hard to think of like where they can.
Yeah, I mean, like
go with the baby.
You can't.
They've
survive.
done a good job so far.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part though, you can't survive on the run. So I mean, if you're going to keep the baby, it's got to be like maybe that's the reason why they go to Richmond, but that's a long way to go.
Yeah,
you know, but
they could just stay at this church. Really,
they could just stay at the church, or they could, if they do, overrun the hospital.
Yeah,
the hospital's been
perfect.
Pretty successful so far.
It's been really good so far. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I mean, obviously something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Go ahead and start our outro music here, and we did it. I think that was a bit long. I don't think it was as long as you think it was, though. I don't think it was quite 2 hours. But thanks for listening. Let's Talk to Walk episode 31, and you can find more shows like this over at undercastnetwork.com. This show's at talkthewalk.com. Follow us on facebook.com/talkthewalk. Am I forgetting anything?
No. Twitter
at talkthewalk. We won't read it, but you can tweet us.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll start reading it. Right now we're not reading
Someday. If you actually tweet us.
All right, and thanks for listening. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't know. See you next week.